Good evening and welcome to the Sleeping Zoo, facts to fall asleep to. To understand the predator that defines the wilderness of the Northern Hemisphere, one must look back millions of years into the Miocene epoch, when the first recognizable canids began to diverge from a common ancestor. The story of the gray wolf begins with a lineage of small, lithe hunters that patrolled the open plains of North America, eventually giving rise to the genus Canis. This evolutionary journey was not a straight line, but a complex branching of species that adapted to the shifting climates and changing prey densities of the Pleistocene. While the popular imagination often pits the gray wolf against the extinct dire wolf, genetic analysis has recently revealed that these two animals were far more distant cousins than previously believed. The dire wolf represented a specialized lineage that eventually vanished along with the megafauna of the Ice Age, whereas the ancestors of the modern gray wolf remained flexible, smaller, and more capable of surviving the lean periods between the great glaciations. This flexibility allowed the gray wolf to traverse the Bering Land Bridge, moving between North America and Eurasia in multiple waves of migration that ensured a robust and diverse genetic pool. The specific genetic split that led to the modern gray wolf is a subject of intense scientific study, particularly regarding the moment when the lineage of the wolf diverged from the ancestors of the domestic dog. It is now understood that dogs did not descend directly from the modern gray wolf we see today, but rather both shared a common, now extinct wolf, ancestor roughly 15,000 to 30,000 years ago. This divergence marks one of the most significant moments in biological history, as one branch leaned into a symbiotic relationship with humans, while the other remained the ultimate expression of wild independence. The gray wolf emerged from this period as a master of the middle ground, possessing a body and a brain optimized for long-distance endurance and high-stakes social cooperation. Their genetic resilience is evidenced by their ability to thrive in environments ranging from the high Arctic tundra to the arid deserts of the Middle East, a feat of adaptation that few other large carnivores can claim. When we examine the physiology of the gray wolf, we find a machine built for the specific strategy of cursorial hunting, which is the practice of running prey to the point of total physiological exhaustion. Unlike the big cats of Africa or the Americas, which rely on explosive speed and short-range ambushes, the wolf is an endurance athlete of the highest order. Their skeletal structure is narrow, with a deep chest and a lithe frame that minimizes wind resistance and maximizes lung capacity. A wolf can travel at a steady trot for hours on end, covering dozens of miles in a single night, without showing signs of fatigue. Their hearts are significantly larger than those of domestic dogs of a similar size, allowing for an incredibly efficient oxygen exchange that powers their muscles during the grueling chases that can last for several miles. This stamina is the primary tool in their arsenal, allowing them to test the resolve and the health of a herd until they identify the single individual that cannot keep up. The biomechanics of the wolf's movement are further enhanced by the specialized structure of their paws. Each foot is a masterpiece of natural engineering, featuring 4 toes on the hind feet and 5 on the forefeet, though only 4 make contact with the ground. The fleshy pads are surrounded by stiff, coarse fur that provides traction on slippery ice and protects the skin from the biting cold of the snow. Unlike cats, wolves have non-retractable claws that act like the cleats on an athlete's shoe, digging into the earth to provide stability during high-speed turns or when traversing rocky terrain. The 2 middle toes are slightly longer than the outer ones, creating an oval-shaped print that is distinct from the rounder prints of most domestic dogs. This arrangement allows the wolf to distribute its weight effectively, preventing it from sinking too deeply into soft snow and enabling a silent approach when necessary. As the winter months descend upon the northern latitudes, the wolf's physiology undergoes a dramatic transformation to cope with temperatures that can drop well below -40 degrees Fahrenheit. Their winter coat is a dual-layered system of insulation that is virtually impenetrable to the elements. The undercoat consists of short, dense, wool-like fur that traps a layer of warm air against the skin, while the outer layer is composed of long, coarse guard hairs that repel water and snow. This fur is so effective at retaining heat that snow falling on a sleeping wolf will not melt from the animal's body heat, as the insulation prevents any warmth from escaping the skin's surface. Even their tails serve a functional purpose in this thermal regulation. When a wolf curls up to sleep, it tucks its sensitive nose and face under its bushy tail, using its own breath to warm the air it inhales throughout the night. The predatory capabilities of the gray wolf are perhaps most visible in the specialized anatomy of the skull and jaw. A wolf possesses 42 teeth, each designed for a specific task in the process of bringing down large ungulates. The incisors at the front are used for grooming and nipping, while the long curved canines are designed to puncture the thick hides of elk, moose, or bison. However, the most impressive feature is the set of carnassial teeth toward the back of the mouth, which act like heavy-duty shears, capable of slicing through tough muscle and tendon. The masseter muscles that power these jaws are capable of exerting a crushing pressure of approximately 1,500 pounds per square inch. This is nearly double the bite force of a large German shepherd, and is sufficient to shatter the femurs of large prey to reach the nutrient-rich marrow inside. This ability to consume almost every part of a carcass ensures that the pack can derive the maximum possible energy from every successful hunt, which is vital in an environment where a week or more might pass between meals. Beyond the raw power of the jaw, the wolf's sensory world is dominated by a sense of smell that is almost incomprehensible to the human experience. Within the nasal cavity, a wolf possesses roughly 280 million scent receptors, compared to the mere 5 million found in humans. This allows them to detect prey from distances of nearly 2 miles under the right wind conditions. Their olfactory system is so sensitive that they can distinguish between different individuals within a herd and even sense the chemical signatures of fear or illness in a potential target. This sense of smell is not just a hunting tool. It is the primary medium through which they perceive the boundaries of their world. Scent marking through urination and defecation serves as a complex chemical ledger, informing other wolves of who has passed through the area, their reproductive status, and the strength of the resident pack. This chemical communication is the foundation of the territorial math that dictates the movements of every wolf across the landscape. The auditory world of the wolf is equally refined, with ears that can swivel independently to pinpoint the source of a sound. They are capable of hearing the high-pitched squeaks of rodents beneath a layer of snow or the distant howl of a rival pack from several miles away. Their hearing extends well into the ultrasonic range, allowing them to detect frequencies that are entirely silent to the human ear. This acoustic sensitivity is paired with a visual system that is optimized for the low-light conditions of dawn and dusk, the times when they are most active. While they do not see the full spectrum of colors that humans do, their eyes are packed with light-sensitive rods and a reflective layer known as the tapetum lucidum, which enhances their night vision and gives their eyes that characteristic golden glow when caught in a light source. Every aspect of the wolf's physical being, from the cellular level to the structure of the skeleton, is a testament to a lineage that has spent millions of years perfecting the art of the hunt. While the physical prowess of the gray wolf is formidable, it is their cognitive architecture and social sophistication that truly set them apart as the masters of the northern wilderness. For decades, the public and scientific understanding of wolf social dynamics was clouded by the concept of the alpha and beta hierarchy, a model based on observations of unrelated wolves forced together in captive environments. In these artificial settings, wolves engaged in aggressive displays to establish dominance, leading researchers to believe that wild packs were governed by a rigid, linear rank system won through combat. However, modern field research, particularly in undisturbed wild populations, has completely dismantled this myth. In nature, a wolf pack is not a collection of competitors, but a cohesive family unit, usually consisting of a long-term breeding pair and their offspring from several consecutive years. The leaders of the pack are not alphas who fought their way to the top, but simply the parents, and the rest of the pack consists of their children who naturally follow the guidance of their elders. This family model shifts our understanding of wolf behavior from one of constant internal conflict to one of deep, nurturing cooperation. The breeding pair, often referred to as the patriarch and matriarch, share a bond that can last for a lifetime, providing a stable core for the group's survival. Within this structure, the concept of alloparenting emerges as a vital survival strategy. When a new litter of pups is born in the spring, the responsibility for their care does not fall solely on the mother. Instead, the entire pack, including older siblings, and sometimes even uncles or aunts, participates in the upbringing of the young. While the mother stays in the den to nurse the blind and helpless pups, other pack members hunt and return to the den site to provide food. This is often done through the process of regurgitation, where an adult wolf consumes meat at a kill site and carries it back in its stomach, later offering it to the pups or the nursing mother. This ensures that the most vulnerable members of the family are fed even when they cannot travel to the carcass themselves. The social brain of the wolf is also evidenced by the complex play behavior observed among juveniles and adults alike. Play serves as a critical educational tool, allowing young wolves to practice the stalking, pouncing, and biting maneuvers they will eventually need for the hunt. It also reinforces social bonds and teaches the young how to inhibit their bite force, ensuring that mock battles do not result in actual injury. This high degree of emotional intelligence allows the pack to operate as a single, coordinated organism during the pursuit of large prey. When a pack of 8 or 10 wolves encounters a 1,000-pound moose, the success of the hunt depends on the ability of each individual to read the subtle body language and vocal cues of their kin. One wolf may distract the prey from the front, while others maneuver to the flanks or rear, a level of strategic planning that requires a sophisticated understanding of both the environment and the intentions of their fellow hunters. Communication is the glue that holds these family units together, and it manifests in a rich tapestry of vocalizations, many of which carry specific meanings and emotional weights. The most iconic of these is the howl, a haunting sound that can travel for miles across the landscape. The physics of the howl are specifically adapted for long-range transmission. It is a continuous, low-frequency tone that resists the scattering effects of wind and forest cover. Wolves howl to gather the pack before a hunt, to locate one another across vast territories, and to warn rival packs of their presence. Interestingly, each wolf has a unique vocal signature, much like a human fingerprint, allowing other pack members to identify exactly who he's calling from the distance. When a pack howls in unison, they often harmonize at different pitches, a technique that creates a chorus effect, making the pack sound significantly larger and more intimidating to any potential intruders listening from the shadows. Beyond the howl, the wolf's vocabulary includes a diverse range of shorter-range sounds such as whines, barks, and growls. Whining is often associated with submission or a request for food, frequently used by pups when greeting adults. Barks are rare in the wild and are typically used as an alarm signal to alert the pack to a sudden threat. Growls and snarls, while aggressive, are often used as a form of social correction rather than a prelude to a fight, allowing the breeding pair to maintain order during high-tension moments, like the sharing of a kill. This vocal repertoire is supplemented by a sophisticated system of body language, where the position of the ears, the tension in the muzzle, and the carriage of the tail communicate a wolf's internal state with remarkable clarity. A high-held tail and forward-facing ears signal confidence and leadership, while a tucked tail and flattened ears indicate a desire to avoid conflict and maintain social harmony. Equally important to the vocal and visual signals is the world of chemical communication, which acts as a permanent, invisible border system. Scent marking is the primary way a pack defines its territory, which can span anywhere from 50 to over 1,000 square miles, depending on the abundance of prey. Wolves possess specialized scent glands near the base of the tail and between their toes, allowing them to leave their chemical signature on trees, rocks, and the very ground they walk on. A wolf sniffing a scent post can determine the sex, health, and even the recent diet of the individual that left the mark. This chemical fence reduces the need for physical confrontation between rival packs, as a lone wolf or a smaller group can detect the overwhelming scent of a dominant resident pack and choose to steer clear. This territorial math is a constant calculation for the wolf, a balance between the energy required to defend an area and the caloric rewards that area provides. As we move from the internal dynamics of the pack to their external impact on the world, we encounter one of the most profound concepts in modern biology: the trophic cascade. The gray wolf is a keystone species, meaning its presence or absence has a disproportionate effect on the entire ecosystem. The most famous case study of this phenomenon occurred in Yellowstone National Park following the reintroduction of wolves in the mid-1990s. For 7 decades, the absence of wolves had allowed the elk population to grow unchecked, leading to the overgrazing of young willow, aspen, and cottonwood trees along the riverbanks. This lack of vegetation caused significant soil erosion and stripped the habitat of the birds and beavers that relied on those trees. When wolves returned, they did not simply reduce the number of elk. They changed the elk's behavior. The elk began to avoid the open valleys and riverbanks, where they were most vulnerable to predation, a phenomenon known as the ecology of fear. This behavioral shift allowed the riparian vegetation to recover with startling speed. As the trees returned, so did the beavers, who used the wood to build dams that created new ponds and wetlands. These wetlands, in turn, provided habitat for fish, amphibians, and a variety of migratory birds. Even the physical shape of the rivers began to change, as the stabilized banks and increased vegetation reduced erosion and created more defined channels. This top-down effect demonstrates that the wolf is not merely a consumer of life, but a sculptor of the landscape. Their presence ripples through the food web, benefiting scavengers like ravens, magpies, and grizzly bears who feast on the remains of wolf kills, and even enriching the soil with the nutrients from discarded carcasses. The wolf is the architect of a more resilient and biodiverse world, proving that the health of the predator is inextricably linked to the health of the entire wild system. The story of the gray wolf is not merely a biological or ecological one. It is a narrative deeply woven into the fabric of human history, psychology, and myth. No other animal has occupied such a polarized position in the human psyche. To some cultures, the wolf was the ultimate teacher and a brother in arms. To others, it was the personification of evil, a shadow lurking at the edge of the campfire. This dichotomy began tens of thousands of years ago, when humans and wolves first encountered one another as rival hunters on the Pleistocene steppe. We were remarkably similar. Both species were social, highly intelligent, and reliant on group cooperation to take down prey much larger than ourselves. It was this very similarity that likely led to the first and most significant partnership in human history, the domestication of the wolf into the dog. Yet, while some wolves entered our circles, those that remained wild became the canvas upon which we projected our deepest fears and aspirations. In many indigenous cultures across North America and Siberia, the wolf was held in the highest esteem. The Anishinaabe people of the Great Lakes region, for instance, see the wolf, the Miingan, as a brother to humankind. In their creation stories, the wolf and the human traveled together to name all the things of the world, and their fates were declared to be forever intertwined. What happens to one will eventually happen to the other. For the Quileute and the Tlingit, The wolf was a symbol of strength, loyalty, and successful hunting. In these worldviews, there was no big bad wolf. There was only a respect for a fellow sovereign being that shared the land. The wolf's ability to provide for its family and its tactical brilliance in the hunt were qualities to be emulated by human warriors and providers. However, as human societies shifted from hunter-gatherer models to sedentary agriculture and pastoralism, the relationship soured. The wolf, once a respected rival, became a pest and a thief. In the eyes of a shepherd, the wolf was a cold-blooded killer that threatened the family's livelihood. This transition marked the birth of the big bad wolf archetype that would dominate European folklore for a millennium. From the terrifying Fenrir of Norse mythology, destined to swallow the sun, to the predatory villain of Little Red Riding Hood and the Three Little Pigs, the wolf was transformed into a monster. It was no longer a biological entity but a moral one, a symbol of the untamed, chaotic wilderness that civilization sought to conquer. This demonization reached its peak during the Middle Ages, where the fear of the wolf was often conflated with religious paranoia, leading to the bizarre and tragic werewolf trials that mirrored the witch hunts of the same era. When European settlers arrived in the New World, they brought this deep-seated lupophobia with them. In the United States, this led to one of the most systematic and government-sanctioned campaigns of eradication in history. The wolf was seen as an impediment to progress, a barrier to the expansion of the livestock industry and the taming of the West. Through the 19th and early 20th centuries, wolves were trapped, poisoned with strychnine, shot from planes, and even burned in their dens. Bounties were paid for their pelts, and by the 1930s, the gray wolf had been virtually eliminated from the lower 48 states, except for a tiny, resilient population in the deep woods of northern Minnesota and Isle Royale. We had succeeded in silencing the howl, but in doing so, we had unwittingly unraveled the ecological health of our wild spaces, leading to the degraded landscapes that would later necessitate the reintroduction efforts of the late 20th century. The modern era has seen a slow, often contentious rebranding of the wolf. The passage of the Endangered Species Act in 1973 marked a turning point, shifting the legal status of the wolf from a vermin to a protected treasure. This shift was fueled by a burgeoning public interest in ecology and a growing realization that the wilderness was incomplete without its apex predator. Yet, the return of the wolf remains one of the most divisive issues in rural politics. For conservationists, the wolf is a symbol of restoration and the rewilding of the planet. For many ranchers and hunters, the wolf remains a threat to livestock and a competitor for elk and deer populations. This conflict is not just about biology. It is a clash of values, a struggle between a traditional agrarian worldview and a modern environmental one. Today, the management of gray wolves is a high-stakes balancing act involving satellite GPS tracking, complex legal battles in federal courts, and innovative non-lethal deterrents. Range riders, colored flags hung on fences known as fladry, and livestock guardian dogs are being used to reduce conflict between wolves and cattle, proving that coexistence is possible, though it requires constant effort and compromise. The legal status of the wolf often fluctuates with changing political administrations, as they are delisted and relisted from the Endangered Species Act, sparking nationwide debates about state versus federal control of wildlife. As we look to the future, the survival of the gray wolf depends less on its ability to hunt and more on our ability to tolerate its presence. We are currently living through a period of human-wildlife coexistence that is testing the limits of our empathy. The wolf asks us a difficult question. Can we share the world with a creature that we cannot fully control? Can we accept a predator that occasionally challenges our interests in exchange for the ecological vitality it provides? The gray wolf is a mirror in its golden eyes. We see our own history of violence and our capacity for restoration. To protect the wolf is to protect the idea of the wild itself, the belief that there should be places on this earth where the human will is not the only law. In the quiet of a winter night in the high country, when the moon hangs heavy over the snow-dusted pines, the howl returns. It is a sound that connects the present to the deep, primordial past. It is the voice of the wilderness, reminding us that the world is older, more complex, and more beautiful than we often give it credit for. The sovereign of the wild has returned to its throne, not as a tyrant, but as a vital breathing part of the earth's ancient machinery. As long as the gray wolf is allowed to roam, the pulse of the wild will continue to beat, a testament to the resilience of nature and the enduring power of one of the world's most misunderstood and magnificent survivors. Thank you and good night.